like to call together the call to order the meeting of the regular meeting of the Board of Directors of the Vallecitos Water District for Wednesday, April 15th, 2020. Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us via teleconferencing. And this is kind of new, so I hope we'll all be patient and bear with me. I'm probably the one who's going to fumble the most. I'd like to start off the meeting by reading our notice to the public. Due to the evolving situation with the COVID-19 novel coronavirus and Executive Order N3520, so long as state or local public officials have imposed or recommended social distancing measures, Vallecitos Water District will hold future meetings via teleconferencing and allow members of the public to observe and address the meeting telephonically or otherwise electronically. During this period of time, Vallecitos Water District will not be making any physical location available for members of the public to observe the meeting and offer public comment. The public is encouraged to watch and the agenda page located on the main, to watch and participate in the meeting from the safety of their homes. The meeting can be viewed on the agenda page located on the main page of the district's website. Public comments or questions can be submitted to the following email address: publiccomment@vwd.org. All written comments that are received at least 90 minutes before the meeting will be provided to the board, and a record of the receipt of comment will be noted during the meeting. Additional instructions for online participation will be posted on the district's website, www.vwd.org/meetings. We're going to be temporarily suspending the Pledge of Allegiance at this time with the teleconferencing, so we'll start with roll call. Director Elitharp.
Present.
Director Martin.
Present.
Director Sanella.
Present.
Director Hernandez. Director Evans. We have 4 here, and Director Hernandez is absent, and hope he is recovering well and he'll be able to join us again soon. Before we make a motion to adopt our agenda, I would like to advise everyone that we need to pull item 2.2 from the agenda at this time. The general manager has advised me it will be on the next agenda, which I believe is May 4th, instead of now. So thank you. Do I have a motion to adopt our agenda as corrected?
Martin, so moved.
Director Martin moved it, and it was seconded by?
Sanella.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we adopt our agenda. Those in favor, please say aye. Director Sanella.
Aye.
Director Martin.
Aye.
Director Elitharp.
Aye.
Director Evans, yes, and Director Hernandez is absent. Okay. Now, public comment, I believe. Director GM Pruem, do we have any either comments or people who would like to telephonically speak with us?
So I have not received anything from the public prior to the meeting via email requesting to speak at public comment. I do have, I'll say it's called a raised hand from one of our attendees, and I can turn it over to them soon, but just maybe as general guidance to anybody participating remotely, if you're coming in through the Zoom connection, you should be able to click at the bottom of your screen in the middle. There should be an ability to raise your hand if you want to speak during public comment. So having said that, I only have one, and it's the person with the phone number ending in 685. I don't have a name associated with it, but I will, the person with the phone number ending in 685, you have 3 minutes to make your presentation or make your comments.
This is Mike Hunsaker. I tried the Zoom connection and it is still not functional. I appreciate the work the GM and Mr. Robbins have played in trying to get this started, but it has been weeks and private parties have been able to put this into practice of teleconferencing far longer. I think that this is a serious fault of the IT consulting firm that provides you services, and I think that contract needs to be reviewed if this is the type of service we're going to get. And the Zoom teleconferencing is much better than this telephone conferencing. And I'd like to urge that this be handled promptly and completely by the IT manager. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hunsaker. Are there any others, General Cruum?
No, I don't see anybody else that's expressed a desire to speak. And I would say that we do have 5 people that have been able to connect to this meeting via our Zoom link on the website. So we can work with Mr. Hunsaker to make sure that he has access the next time, but there have been people able to connect through the link we've provided.
All right, thank you. Okay, so next we'll move to the consent calendar. Would anyone like to move for acceptance, adoption of the consent calendar form?
Zanella moves to approve.
Thank you. A second?
I'll second that, Director.
Pardon?
Director
Director
Eltharp.
Elitharp, was that you or Director Martin?
Yes, the Director Eltharp seconds.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adopt the consent calendar as is. Those in favor, I'll give you a roll call vote. Director Martin,
Yes.
Director Elitharp,
Yes.
Director Sinella.
Yes.
I also say aye, and Director Hernandez is absent. Thank you. We move to our action items. And
President Evans?
Oh, did I miss something?
Well, no, this is General Manager Pruitt. I did
Yes.
see a hand raised briefly from, I thought it was Mr. Hunsaker, and he did indicate earlier today that he may have some comments on items on the consent calendar. And I apologize, I didn't interrupt sooner, but I'm going to call on Mr. Hunsaker if he's still listening, if that's okay with you, President Evans.
I think that's right, and I apologize that we're still working on it. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, please bear with us. Mr. Hunsaker, you should be able to make your comments now, if you have any.
Okay. I've recently learned that I am a potential plaintiff in a class action suit in the city of San Diego, and it's for improper use of funds for not the stated purpose, and particularly overuse of so-called maintenance funds for other uses which Vallecitos Water District is using frequently. We're paying very high fees for maintenance, and it's going into rate stabilization and other things that is not appropriate to use reserves for.
Mr. Hunsaker, if I can interrupt, Mr. Hunsaker, real quickly, is this related to any of the particular items on the consent calendar?
This will be the reserve policy on section 1.3.
Okay, thank you.
And I think that the use of these funds and the overcharging of present users, particularly those who are single small homeowners, is to be investigated and used, and the funds used appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you. Was that it?
Oh, there is also, I asked to speak on 1.7.
1.7. All right.
Go ahead, Mr. Hunsaker.
This relates to a spill from a broken overflow pipe. And from my research, the first spill is held fairly mildly, but any subsequent spills are dealt with much more harshly. And we've had an overflow situation and another break in the pipe since then. And I'm wondering if there are any other follow-up actions that should be taken. Of course, replacing that pipe rather than just inspecting it is an important factor in eliminating spills. And it should be pointed out that this spill went into a protected habitat. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Director Martin, I keep having your name flash. Are you trying to make a comment?
No,
Oh, sorry. Just my
I'm
screen.
sorry.
You just keep popping up. All right, so now we can move to action items. And the first is we have one today, item 2.1, acceptance of the Palos Vista Pump Station electric generator. I'm not sure who will be presenting. Will that be Ed or Jim? Or you, Mr. Pruitt?
James Gumpel will take that.
Thank you, Madam President and members of the board. This item starts on page 71 of your board packet. And let me see if I can get it shared here. Okay, hopefully you can see, can everybody see the acceptance of Palos Vista, the map?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this item here is for the new generator, genset that went with the Palos Vista pump station, which is located next to our Richland tanks. It takes water from Richland tanks and pumps it up the hill to our Palos Vista tanks, which primarily serve the community of Emerald Heights. The pump station did not have an existing generator, and serves the community obviously in case of fires or any type of outages, and to have redundancy as far as a reliable system. Having a generator at a major pump station is one of the things that we strive to do. So we went ahead and moved forward with purchasing a new generator for that. We went out to bids, and back in November of 2018, we received 3 bids, with Berg Electric being the lowest apparent responsive bidder at $180,321. The generator took some time to basically build, manufacture, and bring out. And then we had some trouble with some of the equipment that they had to completely replace. There was nothing faulty with it. They just shipped the wrong one. So overall, it took a little bit over a year to get done. However, they are completed now and everything is working great. With that, you can see from the fiscal impact section on page 71 that the project came in under budget by about $48,000. And with that, the staff recommends the project acceptance and authorization of the general manager to file the notice of completion to release the retention funds to the contractor following the 60-day waiting period, provided there's no claims and, of course, in conformance with the contract specifications and documents. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Gentlemen, do you have any questions or comments?
Director Martin does.
Yes, Director Martin.
James, thank you very much. In reading through the report today, I couldn't help but notice, though, that a little over 25% of the cost of this is your engineering department.
Yeah,
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it's basically, that's with the overhead. You got to remember that basically if you look at it, there's about $12,000 to $13,000 in cost from the engineering department directly. And then when you add the overhead, it adds up, which goes into the value of the asset. So basically, we did the inspection services. We did some of the in-house design. We also did part of the basically all the submittal reviews and everything else. Overall, it's a small job, but whether it's a small job, there's a certain amount of project management that happens on that job. And the fact that we had to review several items multiple times, because when it got shipped out and the generator didn't work as expected, we had to go back, review everything, realize that they put the wrong piece of equipment on the generator, then they had to resubmit it. So we end up going through this thing a few times. There's also some ops times that kind of just got in. So if you look at staff and overhead, a big portion of that is operators times, ed staff that in the maintenance crews were actively involved in this project also. So it's not just engineering.
Okay, anything else?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Director Martin. Thank you, James. I would like to say, I'm glad to see that we have a small budget surplus from this project, and it seems like we do that more times than not. So appreciation on that. And my second question is, had we ever used Berg Electric before? And would we use them again?
Director Evans, President Evans, the Berg Electric's one of the larger electrical contractors in the county. We've used them because they happen to be either a sub or win other jobs. They're one of the, they're the electrical contractor that did the treatment plant upgrade at Metalark. So we have worked with them before, and historically, they have a good reputation.
Okay, thank you. I just sometimes forget when these names come through, and it's nice to know it's someone we feel comfortable with. Okay, do I have a motion to follow staff's recommendations? Or I'll be happy to recommend such a motion.
Second, Martin.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we accept staff's recommendations on this project. I'll give you a roll call vote. Director Martin,
Yes.
Director Sinella,
Yes.
Director Elitharp,
Yes.
Director Evans, yes, and Jim is absent. Okay, so that ends our action items, and we will be moving to reports. It's yours, our GM.
You're on mute.
I'm sorry, did you
Sorry.
need something, Sanella?
I was muted. Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh,
Thank you, President Evans. Just a few items. I wanted to start by giving the board an update on how we stand regarding the coronavirus impacts. So we continue to provide our reliable water and wastewater services in spite of the COVID impacts. Most of our admin folks are working from home. Our field crews have recently been split, so they're half and half. One half is on 1 week and then off the following week, and that's to decrease the likelihood of them being exposed to COVID.
you're giving echoes to me, Mr. Bloom.
Am I? I apologize. Am I still?
Thank you, you're better now.
Okay. The field crews who are not scheduled to be working that week are still on call. So if we need to bring them in due to a water main break or something like that, they are required to come in. So they're not on vacation when they're at home. They're on call for us. The building remains closed to the public. Almost all of our work meetings are via video conferencing, similar to this. So not just board meetings and committee meetings, but all of our internal meetings that we have amongst staff are mostly video conferencing. We're getting all the supplies that we need, so that's good. The supply chain is catching up, and there's very little that we're really lacking, so that's a good thing. No members of staff or members of their immediate family have been identified as having the coronavirus, which is very encouraging. Very happy to see that none of our staff have been infected. In this week, we did start requiring our field personnel to wear facial coverings under certain circumstances, such as when they're interfacing with the public out in the field, or if they have to be within 6 feet of a coworker or a contractor or something like that. So in those situations, they have to wear a facial covering, which has been provided by the district. So that's, things are good. I mean, we're coming along, working pretty well under the restrictions that COVID imposed upon us. We are tracking all of our COVID-related expenses and lost revenue, and we'll be seeking reimbursement for these from either the state or the feds or the county or whoever has a pocket of money that will pay for the financial impacts. I'm working with our finance department to develop a financial reporting mechanism to track and report these costs on an ongoing basis. So some examples on the cost side may be things like personal protective equipment and sanitizing equipment that we wouldn't have otherwise had to buy, maybe some overtime and personnel costs. We're also going to be tracking lost revenue, such as late charges, bad debts that we have to write off, people that never pay their bills because of coronavirus economic impacts. We're tracking water sales to see how that may be impacting us. But I want to point out it's only been about a month since the governor announced the stay-at-home order, and with our billing cycle, it takes us a while to figure out what impacts we're seeing, and then trying to figure out if they're coronavirus related or weather related. So I can guarantee we'll probably see some lower water sales because obviously no one's watering outdoors with the record rainfalls that we've had. So in the coming meetings, in the coming months, the board will start to see some financial reporting tools to let you know what we see in terms of revenue and expense impacts. Switching gears a little bit, I'm glad to announce that most of our system operations have returned to normal following the recent storms. We had about 6.5 inches of rain over a 5 or 6 day period, which for that time of year, which I think was a record in this area. So it's really taxed a lot of our systems. We did experience several sewer overflows, and they did reach some of the receiving waters. We had an overflow on our land outfall near the Laurels on the western boundary of our service area. We lost about 50,000 gallons out of the system. We had a small spill at Lake San Marcos out of the lift station wet well, actually the dry well, but that was about, I think, 13 or 14,000 gallons that we weren't able to recover. Both were relatively short duration and are no longer spilling. So that's a good thing. They happened and we recovered pretty quickly from that. We did receive numerous high level alerts. We have devices in some of our manholes that register when the water starts to surcharge or rise in the manholes. It's an indicator that you may be getting a spill soon. Those have been really helpful for us. It tells us where to deploy our field crews. Fortunately, none of those that we received a high level alarm for did we actually spill. So that was good, but it's always helpful to know that the technology is working and helping us deploy our crews appropriately. We did have a close call at our Montiel lift station. The wet well almost overflowed there, which would have caused a spill. We had to get a contractor with a tanker truck to come in and help us pump water out of, or pump sewage out of the wet well and transport it to a sewer system downstream. But fortunately, our crews responded promptly and we were able to prevent a spill there. We had several small water main breaks, which were repaired promptly. And the biggest structural problem we encountered during the storm events was a failure in our fail-safe line. This is a line that connects our Meadowlark Reclamation Facility down to the ocean outfall by Encina Wastewater Authority. We had a large break that occurred on that line. I believe it was last Friday. The repairs commenced over the weekend. The line is, since we got a contractor to come in due to the depth and the type of equipment that was needed. The line has been repaired. We've pressure tested it and I think it's fully operational now. So that's good. That's a line that's going to need more longer term repairs. These were kind of point repairs to respond to the emergency, but there are CIP projects associated with the fail-safe line and some other sewer lines for a longer term solution to these. When the fail-safe line did break, it was carrying recycled water. So that's good. It wasn't carrying raw sewage. It wasn't carrying secondarily treated sewage. It was carrying recycled water, which if you have to spill anything besides potable water, recycled water is the next best thing. So those are the 3 items I wanted to bring up, and I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Are there any questions?
I have one question.
Yes. Director
Glenn, Glenn, I always understood that we had a pretty well tight closed system. Obviously, during this last rain, which is unbelievably high, but we don't have anywhere near a closed system. We have a lot of water intrusion coming in from multiple points, other than the little holes in the top of the sewer pipe. What's the situation with that?
So it's, you're right. We do have a lot of what we call inflow and infiltration into our system. You can see when you compare the pre-storm flows with the during the flow storms, you can see that there's a big influence that the weather has on. As we go forward, we do a lot of repairs and slip lining to repair damaged sections that allow infiltration and usually it's groundwater that gets into the sewer system. So all these projects that we do that the board approves to go do slip lining, they help that. The project that we're going to start soon is the San Marcos Interceptor in the downtown San Marcos area. That's going to help tremendously. Our asset management program is going to help us identify those areas that have large intrusion. We have a CCTV program where we inspect our sewer lines. We try to identify when we're getting inflow and infiltration into our pipeline system. And some of these CIP projects that we have that are going to be doing some either replacement, paralleling, or lining of our sewer lines will get us a tighter and tighter system. But I can assure you all the wastewater agencies in our surrounding area have very similar problems. And the older your system is, the more likely you are to have inflow and infiltration. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. However, I also know that we spend money and time going out there doing the smoke tests in residential areas and hopefully commercial areas. Are we finding that people are hooking up to our sewer system for their water drainage of their property?
Yeah, we have found that in the past, and Ed Pedrazzi's with us. Ed can probably provide a deeper explanation, but we have identified problems in the past, and we do continue to run that program. With that, I'll turn it over to Ed.
Yes, Director Martin, we typically don't find too many areas that have problems. Most of them, as I've mentioned before in previous meetings, we find their clean out caps are cracked, or they might have a crack in their lateral somewhere we do smoke testing. The biggest problem that we have during a rain event like we just did, I don't know if you were out driving about anywhere, but all of the streets were flooded. So there was a couple inches of water above every single manhole out in the streets. And it doesn't seem like much, but the pick hole and then the manhole cover itself, it's not sealed. Most of them are not sealed. So we have infiltration, or actually inflow, coming from every single manhole out on these streets that are flooded. And that's where really the bulk of the water into the system comes from during a heavy rain event like this. It doesn't bug us too much on small rain events, but this was nonstop rain. I mean, they shut down 78 because it was flooded. It just was beyond what the storm drain systems could handle and beyond what our system could handle with the inflow that we had.
Thank you, Ed. Very plausible. Makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Hey, President Evans, it's Director Sinella.
Yes.
Yeah, I just really quickly wanted to say thank you to Glenn and the entire team, and Ed and everybody that was involved. I know that was an unfortunate circumstance with all that rain, and it was a bit unprecedented. I also heard from some colleagues in the industry from San Diego to Orange County that were dealing with the same challenges. And I appreciate the level of communication, Glenn, that you provided throughout the weekend. And I know that that was some tough duty for everybody involved, in some long hours, and probably some dirty duty. But I really appreciate everything that they did. So if you can pass along our thanks, I'd appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Director Sinella. I agree with you. We did do an excellent response during this, and I deeply appreciate the professionalism and the skill of all our employees in this board in handling tough situations. I think we're very fortunate. Is there any more comments? Okay, then were you done, Director Prum? General Manager Prum?
I was. Thank you.
All right, then it will be legal counsel. You're on, Mr. Gilpin.
Thank you, President Evans. I think, like everyone, we continue to be inundated with the COVID responses. We've done a number of legal alerts and a couple of webinars while you're sitting at home. You may want to check out. In particular is one related to the FEMA public reimbursement and what's going to be required. That webinar went off on April 3rd, and they had such a high response. They're going to be putting another one on the 22nd, but it's available online. I'll send Glenn a link that he can provide to you. Important regarding the FEMA is to put yourself in position to potentially be eligible for funding. There's a deadline of April 17th for a request for public assistance form, which has to be submitted. And then there are some other technical requirements that have to be dealt with. Again, that's a potential recovery. And these are just steps that we're encouraging our clients to take in order to be eligible for the cost recovery from FEMA. The second item is, you probably saw the governor's executive order on the water shutoff moratoriums for homes and critically small businesses. What's important about that is that it reaches back to March 4th. So if there are any shutoffs that were occurring as a result of issues dating back to March 4th, those services need to be restored. The final item would be the request for public information. As you can imagine, the agencies are being inundated with requests. Unfortunately, been no relief provided, and the California Public Records Act deadlines and that remain in place, but we're encouraging clients to communicate with the requesters if they're inundated. There are some reliefs that can be provided that exist under the existing statute, but the governor's order did not provide any relief in that vein. I don't have any further items. President Evans, thank you.
Yes, Director Snella.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. I believe that Vallecitos was ahead of the governor's office with regards to shutoffs related to the economic impacts of our customers. But I don't know off the top of my head, and maybe General Manager Prum, you can refresh my memory. Was it, did we do it before March 4th, or was it shortly after?
I think it was after March 4th that we instituted the moratorium. But I wrote a note to check with our finance manager who oversees the meters and accounts to make sure we didn't turn on anybody off after March 4th and before we instituted our own program.
And I suspect there's going to be, just the way our billing cycles work, we're probably not going to see those types of needs right up front. It'll probably be about a month or so before we actually get to that point in most cases.
I agree.
That's a good point. All right, Director Martin, did you wish to speak?
No, do you do reports?
Oh, no, no, your name just came out in front of me again. Okay,
No.
San Diego Water Authority, our next meeting is actually on April 24th, but I thought I'd just give you a quick little update on the Sacramento legislature. It adjourned abruptly on the 17th of March because of the COVID-19, and we're planning to return on the 13th of April. And then with the stay-at-home order, they modified that to May 4th. And now it's in flux depending on the public health info and compliance with the governor's 6 critical factors, et cetera. But I think I told you earlier that there were more than 2,200 bills introduced for this legislative year, on top of over 1,000 from 2-year bills. So I find that maybe some sanity has come out of this insane time period, because actually the Assembly and the Senate are getting together and they're trying to come up with a way to come up with new guidelines so that they can advance the 2020 legislation once it restarts, and they have no idea how much time they'll have. So they're going to consider limiting the quantities of the bills and prioritizing the bills by essentiality, or if they're COVID-related bills, will be the only ones considered. And I thought that was interesting, that seems so reasonable, but it's big news. So they're working on that. And that's my report. Encino Wastewater Authority.
Yes, we did have a policy committee meeting on Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday, yesterday. We started working on the budget for next year. And so far, there's no surprises.
Excellent. And how about capital improvement? Anything?
The general manager was there.
Yeah, I joined the EWA CIC meeting today, filling in for Director Hernandez. So we met this morning via teleconference, and we went over quite a few items. Had the capital improvement project status report, an update on the cogeneration building structural repair project, an item on the cogeneration building HVAC, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning upgrades, an item on the award of business network improvement project, and an overview of the fiscal year 2021 proposed capital budget. And that's it.
Thank you. Okay, standing committees. I believe we had finance this week, maybe?
Yes, we had finance on Monday. And again, we started putting together our calendar, as well as went over operational expenses and kind of what we knew we're going to be asked for by the different departments, which is not final, but that's basically what they're asking for. And that'll be bringing to the full board at some point in time as we go through the process.
Thank you, Director Martin. Anyone else? No, okay. Now it's what directors' reports on meetings or conferences. I don't know if any of you have any. I do have one. I should have reported last meeting, but I somehow missed it. I did attend a Region 10 board meeting in March as one of the board members for our region, and it was discussing the program events for this coming year. And of course, that's going to go in flux, but there's a lot of talk about discussing the alternative conveyance pipeline. But the focus would be, rather than on what it is how it benefits more than just the San Diego Water Authority region, and to try to tie in other people in supporting this option, which I think would be very, very interesting as we try to answer the ones who say, doesn't help me, why should I be concerned? So that could be interesting, but we don't know yet if it will happen. And I just wanted you to know I'd been to that. Did anyone else have a meeting or a conference?
I had one other oral conference that I was scheduled for yesterday for the Aqua Membership Committee meeting. However, they use Global Go-To Meeting is the name of the company they use, and talking about confusing. So I didn't make it through half of it, so I leave that off as I didn't make it again.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, I think that's the end of the reports.
So at least they told me what time to be there.
Pardon?
So at least they told me what time it started.
Well, that was good. I know this is a real trick for all of us, I think. I don't believe there's any meetings to announce. Are there any director's comments or items on future agendas?
President Martin, or
Yes, Director.
President Evans.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no problem, Director Sinella.
It's almost as if 2020 never happened. Just a comment. So this is I think our third or fourth Zoom meeting that we've had, and every single time we do it, we get a little bit better, and we learn something, and then we make a correction, and we get better at it. I would like to know if it's possible, Glenn, if we could get any sort of feedback from any of the members of the public who have been able to log in. What's the quality like? Is it working for them? I know we don't have a lot of options during this interesting time that we're living in, but I think it would be interesting to get some feedback if that's possible. And so I guess I'll put a request out there for anybody who might be listening. If you could send us an email to the district and just let us know how your experience was, that would be great. And
I'd be
Glenn,
happy to help. I recognize the names of some of the people that are attending the meeting today. One of them is a staff member. They just wanted to see what it looks like from the public side, kind of a secret shopper. And a couple others I know personally, so I'll reach out to them and ask what their experience was like.
Great, thank you.
I think that's a great request, Director Sinella. Director Ellithorpe or Director Martin, do you have any comments?
None for me.
And Director Martin?
The only comment is that staff is doing a fantastic job. Very envious of Jim Gilpin's office.
Well, he told us that background was, changes. So maybe we could just tell him to only put up that beautiful day that's there today, because it's really pretty.
Sadly, that's his real background.
No, I want to see the real background here, that's for sure. Okay, I think that is it. And before I adjourn, I want to thank all of you who joined us, who are out there, and I can't see you. Appreciate it. And we totally will enjoy your feedback and critiques on this. It's an interesting learning curve for us. And I want to wish everyone that they stay healthy and safe. And thank you all. Have a beautiful evening. Adjourned.
Great job.
Thank you, President Evans.
Good night now.
Good night.